as you can see, everyone, we jump right into our musician moment today. Today we're with violinist Tobiah Murphy. And Tobiah, that was lovely. What are we hearing? What did we get to hear?
That was the opening of the second movement of the Elgar Violin Concerto.
Excellent. And why did you select that?
Well, it's honestly, that is probably tied for Brahms with my favorite violin concerto. And I've never played Brahms, so I figured I might as well play that one. It does have, but besides that, of course, it does have a few interesting facts about the piece that has always been very special to me. I've always fell in love with it, and I finally got to play it a few years ago, so I always try to keep parts of it in my fingers. But one fun fact about it, it is the longest major violin concerto. So an average performance of the piece, if you're talking about just, starting, walk on stage, get ready to play through everything, the little gaps between the movements, and then walk off stage, the performance over, typically takes about an hour. So the actual music time of the piece is at around 50 minutes, but all of that extra stuff in there can take anywhere from 55 minutes to an hour. So unfortunately, even though it's getting a little more exposure now, a few more people are interested in playing it, and I think most violinists think of it as one of the greatest violin concertos ever written. It isn't played very often, mostly because it's a nightmare to program.
Okay.
So, but you do hear it. You do hear occasionally a lot more recordings of it are coming out. But it is one of my favorite pieces, and so that's the one I'm going to play.
So, tell me why it's difficult to program.
Oh, the length. The length is because it essentially, if you're programming for a symphony, typically, I'm talking about programming for a symphony orchestra concert.
Right.
It essentially has to take the place of the symphony in the concert.
I was going to say, yeah, it would.
So,
it would.
A lot of directors, music directors, conductors aren't as keen on doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be difficult if somebody says, we want to have a soloist. He says, I want to play the Elgar Violin Concerto. Well, you may not get as much exposure. You may not get as many people wanting you to come play with their orchestra for that particular concert because, they don't get to play whatever symphony they wanted to do. Because typical, orchestral programming, you've got your light piece at the beginning, the soloist, and then the second half is the big half with the symphony, and that ends up taking the place of that in the second half. So my old teacher in my master's degree, this was his favorite concerto as well. I actually ended up studying with him, and he won the Young Concert Artist auditions playing this piece, but he's only performed it twice in his entire life. And it's his favorite concerto, and he said that was the reason, because just trying to get conductors to agree to do it is not easy.
Well, and for everything you said, it all makes sense as you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Something just popped up there. We love technology.
Blessing and a curse.
It's a blessing and a curse. Well, listen, I'm so glad that you explained all that because these musician moments have been great. Letting people meet our musicians, and then also just learning these interesting facts that otherwise people wouldn't know. So hearing all of that just really adds to our knowledge of music and repertoire and so forth. So I appreciate that. So, Tobiah, how long have you been with the Tulsa Symphony?
I'm going on, I believe my fourth year will be this next year. So 3 years total, but going on 4.
And now you're based, you're living in Michigan now, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's do a comparison: Michigan to Oklahoma. No, that's not fair. Your city to Tulsa. How do you like working with Tulsa?
Oh, I love it. It's been great. It's actually been. My fiddle down here.
Sure.
It's it's been about as good of a job, especially for a long distance thing,
right,
as I could ask for. So I'm not from Oklahoma, but I'm from Joplin.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So my family still lives there. So the reason I even auditioned was because I was home one summer. I was still in school, and I was home one summer. And I was looking stuff up on the internet, and I just happened to remark to my mom. I was like, oh, look, Tulsa Symphony's having an audition. And she said, well, why don't you do it? And I said, well, it's like a week and a half away, and that doesn't feel like enough time to prepare. And she said, well, you should do it anyway. So I sent in the stuff and just started practicing nonstop for that entire time up till the audition and ended up winning.
Right.
So And then I found out, oh, I can, I don't have to move. I can still stay in Michigan and finish up school and do whatever I do and come in and play with the symphony as well. So that all just seemed to work out. And so just as far as being able to go back essentially to the area where I'm from,
Sure.
and I actually have cousins that live in Tulsa, so I see them sometimes. And
Nice.
my family can come down and see the concert. So that aspect of things is fantastic. I do feel a little bit more at home in the Midwest, I'm not going to lie, than I do all the way up here. But then when it comes to just playing with the symphony, I mean, it's the first concert, I'll have to say, like, if you want to talk about making good impressions, you never get a chance to make never get a second chance at a first impression.
Right.
It was a magnificent first impression. So just, especially we were working with Hagee, so Dan Hagee doing that, and he's still my favorite, I think, of everyone. I mean, he's the person that comes the most, so there's a reason for that. But
of course,
he's definitely one of my favorite people to work with. I've actually met some other people around here who've worked with him. The praise is all the same. They're like, oh yeah, we just love working with him. So it's been fantastic. I've greatly enjoyed working with playing in the symphony. And the other people in the symphony, everyone in there is, at least in the string section, it's very, very, very friendly. Unfortunately, yes. Strings, we're Turkish. We don't. I haven't talked to too many people outside of the string section, but everyone else I've met.
You musicians tend to be rather cliquish. You stick with your group, your section of the orchestra.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just I don't know. I don't think it's even if it's cliquish. It's just the easiest thing to do. If you just look at the way the orchestra settles, violins here. Cellos, you're looking at the cellos the whole time, or maybe the viola is right next to you. And your relationship to the flutes, especially if you play second violin like I do, is just hoping you don't get to sit right in front of one of them when they're playing the piccolo. So.
We won't get into that debate today, because they may have some of the same feelings toward you. You never know.
Oh, I'm sure everyone has their, roundabout feelings of who they don't want to sit in front or sit behind.
Of course. So what's it going to take to actually get you to move more to the Midwest, where you say you're more comfortable?
I don't know. I mean, I'm at an interesting point in my life. So I've been out of school for a few years now, and I've become very, very, very interested in teaching. And I've been interested in teaching ever since I sort of left my undergrad, just because I felt that there were a lot of issues, a lot of things, balls that were dropped or little holes that were left in my own playing that I had to go kind of sort out for myself. And in the process of sorting them out, I figured out that I became very, very good at explaining things to people, violin technique, all sorts of stuff like that. And so I knew that teaching was something that I wanted to do. And there's also the added aspect of I enjoy kind of mostly working for myself. That's why sort of having this job where, it's not a complete, like, it wouldn't be like doing Detroit, but a complete full-time orchestra. So I have time to, do that and then come back here and work on some of my own projects. And there's another chamber orchestra in Baltimore that I play with as well. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of all how all the chips have laid, where I've sort of been developing a studio here and a teaching studio here, and that's been developing quite nicely, as well as a YouTube channel where I go through a lot of violin technique, and that's been growing as well. So I just kind of become the guy with no real sense of, the only thing that really ties me down here is that studio, and I don't know. That's the hard thing, is once you start building up that group of a dozen kids or so that you're working with, it's kind of hard to just grip away. But I've thought about that. I haven't quite decided exactly where I'd like to end up. I wouldn't mind coming back to the Midwest or coming back to Tulsa. I don't think I'd live in Joplin. But I've definitely thought about it.
It's a nice city also. It's on Route 66. There's a lot of good things about Joplin.
Yeah. Oh no, there's plenty of good things. I was just there for a few weeks last month visiting my parents and all, but
nice. So
that's a hard question. I haven't quite figured that one out myself, because I'm not quite sure I'll stay here forever either. It's just kind of where everything's, the chips have fallen.
It's where you are at the moment, and it's working.
Yeah.
And it's working. Yeah. So I was going to ask you a little bit more, because you have developed you call an academy for teaching, and you really got into all aspects of that during your career, and as you were going to school and so on, to really learn what it takes to play your instrument well, and then to teach that. So teaching is really, a fundamental calling for you.
Yes, definitely.
And so the students you work with and so forth, and I know you said you were doing more and more online right now, as so many things are more online.
Yeah, I don't really have a choice right now.
Right, but how's that working in terms of using technology with your focus on teaching?
That's actually worked out better than I would have expected. Now, I'm not going to lie, I knew in-person lessons. There's just don't
Sure.
get to do. Obviously, most of my students haven't invested in the type of equipment. Like I've got a pretty nice microphone, camera, all that kind of stuff. I even have light. I mean, I don't use that for teaching, but actually, when I do videos, I even have special lighting and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, my students won't have invested in that type of stuff. So you're not always going to get the same feedback from sound as when you're live with someone. So right
Sure.
now, I have a pretty good USB mic, and I actually had one student that borrowed the same model of mic, Blue Yeti microphone, as an experiment, because often I know what tendencies people tend to have when it comes to mistakes, but not all of that, or in tone quality and things like that. So not all of it you can hear through a computer microphone.
Okay, makes sense.
So I often have to ask questions. It's like, here's the reply, because I think I heard that, but I want to make sure it wasn't just Skype. It wasn't just the warbling through the airwaves or stuff like that.
Right.
So one of them did end up getting a hold of, a nicer microphone, and suddenly, oh wow, I could hear everything just as clearly. But they're not going to do that. They're not going to go buy a $100 microphone for their lessons, and that's fine.
Sure.
So, but for the most part, I can, especially because not everyone's at sort of a super high level, so I don't need to be nitpicking tiny nuances.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, it's worked out very, very well. I, of course, had to maybe expand my methods of explaining things.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, I can demonstrate just as well. They can hear me better because I've got good equipment. So it's actually worked out very, very well. And I've actually picked up no less than 3 students that are just online. From my, they found me on the internet, and especially since they can't go to a live teacher right now where they live, they figured, hey, I might as well try out, see where I can find anywhere across the country. So I have a student who is in California, I have a student that's in Connecticut, and I have another student that's in Ohio. So
that's
I'm just
cool.
doing it through the this medium.
So
but I do miss live lessons, and I can't wait to get back to it.
Sure, I would say, but now you can even expand internationally. That could be cool.
No, that I am perfectly happy expanding that side of the business as well.
Very cool.
But if I had to choose, I would make sure that most of my students were in town, so you can have more of a relationship that way with your students.
Of course. Oh yeah, sure. So, given how busy it sounds like you're staying, is there such a thing as downtime for you?
Oh, of course. I mean, I have about 10 or so students that are active right now. I actually had a couple decide to take breaks before all of this stuff happened. But outside of that, I haven't lost any students from this happening. Everyone's agreed to go online. So I have about 10 students right now, and not all of them are now. But even if they were, that'd be no more than 10 hours a week. So it's actually not too difficult to find other time. But of course, I still try to have time to practice.
Right.
I like to go. There's a nature trail not too far away from where I live, so I'd like to go out there as often as I can. Almost every day, walk at least 4 miles or so out in the woods. That sort of keeps me sane. And then just sort of general upkeep around the apartment, reading books, trying to make videos that go on my YouTube channel and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I stay plenty busy, but it's not just with teaching, because teaching doesn't take up more than 10 hours a week.
Okay, interesting. So, I would say you should tell us where we can find your YouTube. Well, it's on YouTube, but what is your channel?
It's a Murphy Music Academy.
Okay, very good. You have a website.
I do. That's murphymusicacademy.org.
There we go. It's all about Murphy Music Academy. We got it. MMA.
It is.
MMA.
I even, believe it or not, I didn't wear this because, well, actually it got a stain on it, but I even have
oh yes.
I even have my own. Usually wear those in the video. I started getting that to wear those in like the videos and stuff like that, and one of my sister's boyfriends, I just had it specially made for myself, and my sister's boyfriends said, said I should just make a store, because he told me at some place you can set up these online shirt stores
Right.
and stuff,
Mhm.
with logos and things.
Mhm.
So I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that's bought something from it, but 'cause it's a good place for me to get my own, T-shirts and mugs and things like that. But
That's cool. And, you're being entrepreneurial, so I love it. I love it. Well, listen, Tobiah Murphy, it has been a real pleasure visiting with you today. Thank you for taking the time to share with us and share with our TSO family. People are really enjoying these opportunities to get to know our musicians better. They see you on stage, but to say, oh, it is a real person, but now I sort of know this person at least better. So
yeah. Love the mystique. We're quite normal people for the most part.
Exactly. So for the most part.
For the most part.
So we will look forward to seeing you hopefully in person very, very soon.
Well, I hope so too. I've already got, everyone's being optimistic with sending out the orchestra schedules for next year. So hoping that will stay that way. So
we are pressing on. We are pressing on. Yeah. Well, you take good care and stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.